morning, everybody. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business person, or you're just thinking about becoming one, this show is for you. I'm Doris Nagel, your host for the next hour. I'm a crazy serial entrepreneur myself, and I love helping other entrepreneurs. I've counseled lots of startups and small businesses over the past 30 years, and I've also helped started on my own at least 9 different businesses. I wish I could tell you they've all been successes and that I haven't made any mistakes, but that would not be true. I have made so many mistakes, and I've seen and heard about lots of mistakes along the way. The show has 2 goals, really. First, to share helpful information and resources for small business people like you, and second, to inspire you. Hopefully make your journey as an entrepreneur faster and easier, maybe just a little bit more fun. So to help with both those goals, I have guests on my show every week who are willing to share their stories and their advice. And this week, I am blessed to have not one, but 2 guests, a father-daughter duo, Al and Sarah Katz. Al is the Chief Employment Officer at a company called FirstSearch, and you'll hear more about what they do in just a second. And Sarah, his daughter, is the Chief Candidate Whisperer, which is a title I've not heard before, and we're going to hear, I'm sure, an interesting story about that. So Al and Sarah, thanks for being on the show. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur.
Hello.
Thank you, Doris.
Well, thank you to both of you. And I'd like to start out just by having you share a little bit about your company. What does FirstSearch do?
At the basics of the whole thing, we help people. I can say we also find people, but we actually help people. We have 2 parts. One is the employer of a company or a president of a company, and they need to hire somebody. And then we find that somebody.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We put the 2 together like a matchmaker in heaven.
And that's a pretty important piece of, especially for small businesses, as we'll talk about more as we get into the interview. But what kind of positions do you help your clients fill?
We've done from presidents down to fresh grads.
And are there any kinds of things you don't do? Any kinds of types of positions or geographies you don't do? Or
As of now, no.
wow.
We can help all. We have placed candidates in the UK, in Sydney, Australia.
Wow.
So it isn't just here here.
Wow. So you guys really are can do. It sounds like your motto is can do, because that's covering the gamut of a lot of different kinds of positions, a lot of different kinds of companies in different industries and even geographies. Who are most of your clients?
On my website, I have a bunch of names. So I've done the Motorola's, I've done the Lucents, I've done the Sprints, I've done the Saint-Gobains that does glass and does oil and gas. What I found out a long time ago, even before we brought Sarah on, it's all about just talking to people and trying to understand why they need what they want.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the hardest problem to fix, because they don't know.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and I can't wait to talk more about that. There's obviously lots of search firms out there. What's unique about FirstSearch? What makes you special for your clients?
At the end of the day, we still talk to people, and we're really working with people. And people have their own personalities. It's like a marriage. So we've got to make sure the 2 fit together well, and why we need to do what we're going to do. And I harp on the companies more. How did they come up with the job? What are they really looking for? What's their culture? What's their 3 to 5 year plan? Where's this person going to go? Are you really set up to deliver that if that did happen? But what I find out is I could say this after 44 years of doing it, most people don't know how to hire. They don't go to hiring school 101 or get a bachelor's degree in it.
Yeah, no. And I'm just laughing because one of the things that's crept into a lot of job searches that my daughter just recently graduated and she's been out looking for jobs, and it drives her and a lot of her college colleagues crazy with all the AI. You sound like you're anti-AI, or at least an advocate for what AI can't really do effectively in the hiring process.
I go both ways. I like AI, but when you're recruiting, the AI needs is based on its input. Do you really know why you know what you want? Then you use the AI based on your own individual formula. Like if you're a woman-owned business, you might go, we get grants, we get funding. We do better if we hire women, or we're a minority business. So you've got to know at the beginning what you really need and why. That's the biggest question. And I think Sarah does the same thing when she finds candidates for us, Sarah, right?
Yes. We try to find the right job. And if it's not with our client, that is fine. Let's say we had a job for a solutions engineer, and this guy fit to the T, but
On paper, you mean?
Mhm, yes, but his end goal was a cyber, and it's like, oh, well, then this job here is not the best job, and that is fine.
Yep. Talk about the story about how the firm got started.
I'm going to go one stage before that because I think it'll make sense. Because a lot of people are unemployed now. I started unemployed. I used to fix medical scientific research equipment and got laid off, just so you know. And I learned a lot of lessons working in the medical field, talking to doctors and nurses and lab people. So after 3 years, I had to know how to work with each one, and each one had a specific set of rules I had to follow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when I got into the business, we're talking about I had to go downtown to downtown Chicago. I lived in Chicago with my parents. I did not want to buy a car to go to the suburbs. And I kept getting offers, but I refused to buy a car. So I was a hard-nosed candidate. I will say that. I was not Mr. Sweet Guy, but I kept getting offers. I kept passing the tests. And one day this girl said, how would you like to work here? And I saw it was mainly a woman-run business, even though it's on the New York Stock Exchange. As a young guy, you go, yes, I'll work here. And that's how I fell into headhunting.
You're kidding.
That's it. I did not wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a headhunter. I'll go to college and get a degree. And I just fell into it.
Right. And it's not like you had a degree in human resources management or even.
I did electronic engineering. So that's what I got.
Wow. Well, but I'll bet that helps you relate to some of the more technical people who are looking to hire. And, if you can talk to those people, I mean, I found as having a lot of those people as clients, a lot of them really struggle with some of the things you've been talking about, which is really figuring out what they really need. And I have to say, a lot of the, doctors and technical people, they have great ideas and they are brilliant in the field that they're in. But some of those people in particular really, really struggle with the human resources side of things and figuring out what they're really looking for, what they think they're looking for versus what they really need. And I know that's a passion of yours. So talk about that aspect of matching candidates with employers.
So my job getting the companies is different than Sarah's job getting the candidate, but we do have a lot of common denominators. The first denominator we do is we ask a lot of questions. Based on those questions, we then get the answer what to do next. It's a simple formula. It isn't very complex and mathematical. Ask a question. Does the answer make sense? Is that really what the hiring person wants? Or is that their dream, him or her dream of what they'd like?
Do you find most of that process is truly skills based, or is more of a culture fit? Or
It's multidimensional
yeah,
because you said something key. Culture is part of it. Like if everybody went to the same college, they hire people from the same college. They
yeah,
went to the same high school. All this is part of, but it's our job to find out what that was. What are the key to, what I always ask people is one question. I don't own the question, but nobody has ever answered it in 40 some years of recruiting. What's the top 3 things I should be asking candidates to know I got the right candidate for you?
that's interesting.
Because I don't like job descriptions.
Yeah. Well, even me, I've thought about looking at opportunities, and I keep looking, and it's so discouraging because, I think I'm good at a lot of different things. I could help you with many things, and yet I don't see any job descriptions that fit, They're, I don't know, they're looking for this long laundry list of things, and you
That's
know,
because they don't know what they want.
well, it does seem
So
that way,
they
Sarah. It
just
really
add
does.
all of this stuff because they don't know what they want. And it does suck. And I mean it does, because it's like for us, I mean, we ask all of the right stuff,
Yeah.
and getting the clients to answer sometimes is a little bit more of a challenge because they don't know.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You do kind of get that feeling when you look at this and you're thinking, who is it that you think is going to be out there that has all this? I mean, and what I don't see in your job description is that you're willing to pay in the 95th percentile either, Um, so it's almost like it's just throwing a whole bunch of stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. But the problem is you're screening out a lot of potentially good candidates who look at that and say, well, I don't have this and I don't have that, and I don't have this. Or they look at it and conclude what you've concluded, which is you have no idea what you want. You sound like a poopy employer to work for, because I don't really want to help you on your journey to figure out, and find out, oh, I wasn't really what you wanted. Um,
Now, to say something about that, I say candidates should contact that hiring manager.
oh yeah,
Because it does make them, it has them, what's the word? A stand out. I blinked. And it helps them see, oh, maybe so and so is the right candidate. I always tell, I will try harder on with candidates that at least contact me.
ah,
So on
that's
all of
interesting.
our jobs, it always shows me. And if they contact me, there is a, not saying a whole chance, but
Yeah,
a better shot of them being a better candidate. And
yeah,
it shows them they know how to have themselves, how to sell themselves in a way.
yeah. I think that's right. And I guess for me, if I think about it, I would think it shows initiative,
It
and
does.
you
Yeah.
certainly, I think a lot of employers, they never say they're looking for that, but I think they really are.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of candidates know how to sell themselves. They don't
Ah,
tell the client, "Oh, I I would love to have so and so a job."
yeah,
Now, sales, sure, but non-sales candidates, they just don't. And if they at least would try and say, "Oh, I would love this job," then I think they would at least be more considered.
yeah, yeah, that makes total sense.
I'll give you an idea, Doris. We just civil engineering. I don't know if you know what it is, roads and
Oh,
highways and all
yeah.
that. We got called by a firm. She kind of like myself, and I do have another partner, not Sarah, that we go into the companies together as a team. And she said, "I like you guys. You won the bid. I want you to find me a civil engineer." So they sent over this long job description. It's almost 2 pages long. And I said, "Can I talk to the person in charge of the department?" So we get on the phone with the person in charge of the department. And the first question I asked was, "How would I know I got the right candidate for you?" And he said, "Well, it's really not on the job description." I'm going, "Oh, this is wonderful when they say that." He said, I don't really need a professional engineer. They might be in
What?
EIT, but that's not more important. What I need is somebody who could work out in the field with roadways and transportation, because that's what we do. You see the difference now? I've got a 2 page job description. They got to have this, they got to have that, they've got to have CAD 3, all this stuff that is insignificant. But he finally said, "That's what I need." And he then said, "If you find somebody like that, let me know." And Sarah then took that information, found somebody already. We're talking 48 hours later.
Yeah, yeah,
I talked to him last night. Somebody else is going to talk to him tonight. Exactly what they wanted.
yeah,
Because they also told us when we were on the phone with them, "How do I sell this person to come to your company?" See, that's another part of, once you know what they want, how do we sell it?
yeah.
And then
Well,
I've got to get that over to Sarah so she could figure out how to get people to respond so she knows what she's doing.
yeah,
Otherwise, I don't know, there's a break in the links.
yeah.
Going from
Yeah,
part
yeah,
A to
yeah.
part
And I
B.
do want to talk about that second piece of it, but I'm still continue to be fascinated, especially startup companies, with trying to make their first hire or two, and the number of mistakes, just absolutely fundamental mistakes that I've seen. Either they don't have a clue what it really means to have an employee, or they want someone that's like them, maybe, and
Mhm.
that's not really what they need. Or sometimes I think they're so anxious to hire a person that they're not even necessarily ready to hire. I'll just tell one little story of a former client of mine. It's a sad story, but probably not very unique, sadly. It was a company that was selling a medical device, a new medical device, and the the founder had raised some money because it was a cool idea and it was something he had invented. And after all, physicians are who better than a lot of times than the physicians to know what the system really is lacking. Anyway, so he raised some money and he was convinced he needed to go hire two salespeople, and he did. The problem was for him, not only were these two people cultural mismatches, um, but he hired people who had experience selling to physicians, but he wasn't even far enough, hadn't really established his business model to realize that the physicians were the easy sell in the hospitals. The hard sell was the IT department.
Ooh, you're right.
And these people that he hired had no clue how to sell to those people. So they sold almost nothing, and he ended up firing him. He blew through all of his money, and that was the end of the company. Bye-bye.
Wow.
What a sad story, but I'll bet it's not that unique.
I think Sarah will agree with me because she finds the candidates. Most people are afraid to ask the real questions because they're not sure sometimes what the real questions are. They got to really step back and look at it and go, what do I need?
Yeah.
Like building a baseball team. Do I need a hitter? Do I need a pitcher? Do I need a what position? What is this person really going to do, he or she, for my company? What results do I want so I can monitor them as statistics? They don't know how to do that because
Yeah.
they don't know what they want. I'm not being cold. I'm just going, that's what I found out a long time ago.
That resonates. I mean, in this case, the guy would probably have been better served, maybe even hiring a sales company with different kinds of expertise and hired them for 6 months to map out who the customer really was and or the customers and what kind of skill sets would be needed to sell to each of those different groups of customers.
Mm-hmm. You're
Um,
right.
so it's a challenging process, and I'm sure you've had more than a few stories of woe from clients or potential clients, what the cost is if you don't get this right. I mean, what are the bad things that can happen?
Well, you already said the number one thing for small companies, they go broke because they hired the wrong
They go
person.
bye-bye.
They're gone. I've done larger companies, and it's funny. I'm going to quote somebody who won the Alexander Graham Bell Award because we had the honor to staff him. And basically, he said he looks at two types of people when they get their master's or PhD. He said, somebody will say, I went to school and I learned all this. I've now spent all my years. That's what I want to live doing. There's the other person goes, they just got their master's, they just got their PhD. Spent a lot of years going to school. I've learned a lot, but I'm actually open to do whatever you need me to do. And he said, that's how I build my departments. Very wise man. But you never look at it that way. And he used to work for AT&T Bell Labs. So when you meet him, we met him at his office. He said, these are all the things we invented. He had a little room of them, and he said, nobody would ever buy them. And he said, that's what people forget. They don't realize what are they really trying to end up with. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, but true. Benefits and perks. How important are those? And how do you get a sense of how important that is for the business that your client is in and the kind of candidates they're looking for?
Most candidates want to know if there's health, all of that. The most important thing is stocks. I have seen they want stocks. They
Stock?
also stocks in that a company.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. They
Well,
want to know when benefits start. That is huge because if they have small kids and
oh
they
yeah.
don't start for 3 months, that's
Oh,
huge.
yeah.
So and the third, a bonus. They want to know that.
So how important do you think all this, remote versus not remote versus hybrid that is in all the news these days? Is that important for certain candidates or generally
I
not
would
as important as the media seems to give it print about?
I think most candidates would prefer remote.
Yeah.
We are starting now to see a shift where clients want more on site.
Mm. Yep.
And it's a huge toss up. I have my higher ones, my VPs, those are all on a site. all.
Yeah.
They the lower jobs, they want remote,
Yeah.
but it's now starting to turn that most clients just don't want to pay. Well, if they offer remote, they'll pay less.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, that's
Uh,
interesting.
so there's also that too. And I don't think candidates see that. Like, oh, if I don't go in, I might lose, I don't know, a 20 grand.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there were obviously during COVID a lot of studies showing how much more productive people are. And it's hard for me to take many pot shots at it because I do shows remotely and I used to do them all in the studio, and then when the studio was closed during COVID, I found that it was a lot more productive for me to be able to, and better for my guests to have more flexibility. So, and having worked even in big companies and been able to work from home occasionally, I certainly found myself being a lot more productive in many ways. So, how do you how do you balance that with, okay, you're remote, you're more productive, but you get paid less?
I'll give you an idea because we also do
I'm
temp
playing
to
devil's
perm.
advocate a little bit.
No, I love this because you're right. What has now happened by law with the IRS and Department of Labor, it's not an Al Katz philosophy. This is what's really happening. When the person works so many hours or days at home, their home base where they're working becomes the location for benefits,
Oh, yeah. And taxation
unemployment.
too. Yeah.
So it knocks the numbers off. Like if you're in
Oh, yeah.
California, it's freaking nuts. That's all I'm going to say. They have so many rules out there, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, and I'm thinking of companies out east where states are smaller and closer together, where you thought you were doing business in Delaware, and now suddenly you're doing business in Delaware and Rhode Island and Pennsylvania and all sorts of places, right?
Then you add New Jersey and you got a whole other world of hell.
Well, interesting. And what about some of the other fun benefits? Bring your dog to work and on-site daycare and laundry service. I don't know. There's all, swanky car, company car. But does any of that
I
matter?
believe with Tom and Jerry's, they used to do ice cream parties. I have worked with companies where they bring their dog to work. I just can't find people that are allergic to dogs. So I need to know, these are little things you wouldn't think about. I think people, and I'm not picking on age groups, so people need to feel like you like them or you like her.
Yeah.
So the more you're doing to make them happy, like even I'm upset they don't even still have bring your child to work day.
Yeah.
It's a big awareness level for a child to realize what their parent really does.
My daughter adored it. She looked forward to it.
Anything to get connections, that's part of what I think is missing.
Yeah.
Like,
how do you align them as a manager? It's like a football team, or it's like a Navy SEAL. They just jump out of planes. They don't ask questions. I've had friends that are SEALs, and I said, what's the worst part? They said they missed the landing zone by 3 miles. They said, what do you do when you jump out of a plane and you land up through? You swim. You don't get into all this stuff. It's not part of our training. You just swim. And I think that's part of the company's got to realize, whoever's running the company and HR, what should they be doing to make everybody happy? Because happy people stay longer.
Do you think companies have become truly more aware, or are they making just sort of mouth noises about the fact that they need to be more inclusive of how different people look at fun and connectedness and feel a sense of connection to their employees and to their fellow employees? Do you think are we making real strides there, or is that mostly mouth noises?
It's mouth noise. I mean, I've done Sprint, AT&T,
Oh, that's depressing.
Lucent.
I think we have to end this interview now.
No, they're okay,
I'm depressed.
but they knew what to do for their employees. And people would stay there because they felt, I'm going to stay here for 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
The new generation of younger people going into their 20s don't care about staying.
That is
Software
true.
people are the worst. They take jobs to better themselves so they have more value by learning the latest state-of-the-art technology.
Yeah.
We just blew the equation out of the water.
Well, so that is a reality, I think. And I just, having eavesdropped on a lot of conversations with my daughter and some of her friends, a lot of them really are not, they have absolutely no expectation of staying with a company longer than a couple of years.
Which is not, it is bad. I think my age group, we job hop. It's our thing. And for clients, that's not good because it shows when something else comes that can be better, they are out.
Right.
So why would the client pay to have all of these fun things
Right.
when it doesn't matter?
Right.
They
At
don't
the
care.
same time, I hear them saying, well, I really want to find a company where they're going to pay for my MBA. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why would they pay for your MBA if you're probably going to leave?
Yeah, I don't think a lot anymore now pay for MBAs. I know none of ours do, and anyone that I do helps clients don't. But I think my age group has been set up in a way to kind of fail. And
Really? Talk
yes,
about that. Why?
I think college, like
You mean the cost of college or?
no, we have been taught in school, you pay for your college degree, you will make X amount. That is false. A fresh college grad will not make 100 grand. They just will not.
Most
But
won't. No.
yeah, but schools have now taught that, and it's like that is wrong. That is completely wrong.
Yeah, we know
Well,
people that went to college. They hadn't even graduated and they're out looking at cars. They're going to buy condos. We're going, how much money do you think you're going to get out of college? Even if you have a master's, you still got a college debt. How can you afford a brand new car and a nice place to live, in a house or a condo?
that squares with some of my daughter's other peers too. I have a niece who she has a liberal arts degree, and she came out expecting to be able to buy a lot of stuff, and she ended up all she could find was a job selling cars, and she ended up leaving that pretty shortly thereafter because it just didn't pay enough. And I said, well, I know some of my daughter's friends are actually, they're waiting tables and bartending because it's pretty decent money. She goes, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. So,
Why?
another friend was had a liberal arts degree, and my handyman runs a business, and he's been really short on workers. He does all kinds of electrical and plumbing and carpentry, and he basically said, I'm just looking for willing learners. He said, I'm willing to even teach somebody a trade, but I need somebody who's reliable, who show up and cares about the work and is easy to get along with. And so I mentioned this to this my daughter's friend who was unemployed, and he was like, I'm not going to do that. And I thought, what? Not sure where your head has been, but a lot of these folks who run plumbing and electrical businesses and masonry businesses, they make a lot of money. I don't know if if you had a home, you would realize those people are hard to get. And when you find a good one, you don't tell any of your neighbors about them because they're busy. They're so damn busy because they can't find enough people to help. And a lot of those people take nice vacations and send their kids to nice schools and have $1 million businesses, But try
I
telling
think
that
they
to
should.
some of the current college grads.
They have been trained that is, I know this sounds bad, but we have been trained in a sense, those blue collar jobs are not good. And that is why a lot of schools now, they now have a wood shop, a car shop,
Yeah,
because for so long we didn't have any. And now we don't have
I
enough
know. Yeah,
for those blue collar jobs.
yeah,
Like my mom's dad taught her all of taught her about HVAC, plumbing, and it's like she knows so much stuff. It saves her on getting a guy here.
oh yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like I think my age group just needs to not be so, I hate to say this, so get off of their a pedestal. And it is true, and I wish we would just see that, and I think that would help for the hoppers, and they would see, oh, my job now pays for all of my benefits.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
benefits to me is huge. And
Yeah.
if I can have mine paid for, that's huge.
Well, I
And
think that's part of it is especially younger grads. And even, I have to say, even when I worked in companies, I don't think I had a clue how much it actually cost.
yeah,
I didn't
it
realize how much it cost until I started my own business and had to go looking for health insurance. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is insanity, But now all of a sudden you start to think, oh, that's why those employers were talking about what a great benefit it is. Well, we've taken a bit of a fun digression, but it really does relate, I think, to the issue of finding good matches between employees and employers, right? Because if you have a potential employee, a candidate who has a lot of unrealistic expectations and that doesn't match with what the companies are looking for, then that's probably not going to be good for either of them, right?
I'm going to digress and go another way because you hit a good point just now. I know, really good point. Smaller startup companies don't have a plan for hiring. They just think they're going to throw them and they're going to get it done. He or she is going to get the work done. But what's going to happen 6 months, 9 months from now? Where's the excitement for the employee? You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
They're trying to fill a spot. It's that cold. I need somebody to do so-and-so. I need a good secretary. They don't say, I
Right.
really need somebody to
My
run my
my
schedule.
doctor client who's like, I need 2 sales guys who can call on doctors.
To do
Same
what?
kind of
What's
thing.
the real goal? They
Yeah.
don't know.
No, just sell a bunch of products so they can raise some more money. That was his goal.
They didn't understand what that takes for the person they hire to produce what they want because he couldn't explain what he wanted.
No,
What's the
agreed.
real valuable final product people produce? I
Right.
learned this at 9 years old. I had no money, and this is a true story. I lived in a 36-unit apartment building. My dad did 20 years in the Army. I was born in England on a military soil. Every 2 years we traveled, so I had a crazy childhood. If I wanted to get money to buy a model or something, I worked. So the first business I had a partner. We collected bottles off of back porches. Remember how many people used to drink bottled pop?
Oh,
And
yeah.
they put them on the back steps. The janitors got sick of doing it. So we partnered with the janitors at 9 years old, and they gave us their cart to wheel the bottles. The people go, your parents are buying your toys. I said, no, I'm working my butt off to get my toys. People lost that. Does that make sense? They lost that one little, if you work and do it, you're going to get it. They've taken out the work part, even in school. That, to me, that's the basic problem. We gave our kids too much. I'm lucky I got two good kids, but a lot of people, their kids have had 3-4 jobs. They really don't know what they want to do. They went to school because some teacher or parent said, go get an education, get a bachelor's degree, get a master's, you'll go farther. And if you really have an executive MBA, everybody will hire you.
It isn't true. It isn't true at all.
No, I'm sure not. So we've talked about some of the common issues, I think. Let's focus more on best practices. What should companies really think about, maybe even before they call you?
I think every company should have a training program that runs 1 to 3 years. And every time they hit a certain target, they get rewarded. Because I don't know what the hiring manager wants somebody to do. That's one of our questions. How are they going to progress? What are they going to have to learn or do to keep moving up the ladder? And somehow that up the ladder part is disappearing, I'm thinking.
Especially in startup companies, up the ladder, that's kind of so far off in the distance. I'm not sure that even on the radar scope.
Yeah. So how does the startup person figure out how to hire a person? You got to have some agreement between what the person's going to do and what the person wants to do and what the new owner wants to do.
Well, right. And I think typically from my own experience and from conversations with lots and lots of entrepreneurs is that they look at what they're good at, what they like doing. They also look at more repetitive kinds of things. They look at what they're not good at, and they try to find someone to basically free up more of the founder's time or the owner's time to do more of the stuff that they like or that they're good at.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. But they still got to, they got to look at, now I'm going to manage people. I'm now a boss. Hate to say that's the word now. How do I build an organ, even of 2 people? What do I need from these people? They don't look at it that way. I've worked with too many startups to learn that.
No,
all they
I
want,
agree
I hate
with
to
you.
say, an ass in the chair. That's what they want, and they feel they're going to get the job done. And when he or she messes up, they don't want to let them go, so they keep that person longer and longer as their revenue stream is going down. It's like insanity.
Yeah. So you're suggesting instead that companies, even small, very tiny companies, should think about how they would like to grow and what those people would look like? How should they go about doing that?
They should be asking questions and go, hey, where would I be a year from now? Where should this person be a year from now? If I hire her, is she going to be able to interface properly with our customer? I mean, see, there's a lot of different needles being put in the pincushion here.
Yes.
So you got to figure out which needles you pull out, and there's your answer. Most people aren't looking at that. They're going, well, if I just hire somebody, I'm going to make money. Money's in exchange for service, in my opinion. And I don't get excited. I get upset about this because everybody looks at it that way.
And I will tell you, a large percentage of the entrepreneurs that I have as guests on this show, when I ask them the question, where would you like your business to be? Where do you see it being in 3 years? There's a really high number of them that can't answer that question.
So, they've never looked at that.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to look at it when you have a business, put your business plan together. But I think what it means is that for a lot of people starting out, their business plan is really short horizon and the rest is a wing and a prayer, maybe. I don't know.
I call those hey you organizations. Hey, you do this, you do that. That's how they do it. I call them hey yous.
I
learned a long time ago.
Well, so what are some of the most common other mistakes that you've seen in terms of companies that were hiring?
Not enough money.
For salaries, you mean, or benefits?
No,
or both?
having enough money to keep them open.
Oh.
They just think they're going to hire somebody, they're going to bring business in, and I'll have cash flow. How long is this sale? What's involved with the sale? How many people got to get involved? Is it in your business plan? If you need a 6-month ramp up, do you have a 6-month ramp up in your business plan?
Yeah.
Does he or she understand that? I'm not saying they're ignorant. I'm not saying they're stupid.
Yeah.
But they've got to really address it. Now you're the owner of a company. You're running a business.
Right.
It's like if you look at Ford, how did these people do what they did? They didn't get into all this little minutia. They just knew that's what they had to do, and they knew why, and they did it.
Yeah.
It's that why that's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think I alluded to that earlier. Something I've seen is that a lot of small business people just really want to hire more people. And there's different ways of finding additional resources. And when when you're small and maybe you're still trying to figure out your business model and what sells and what doesn't sell and how to price it, it's not necessarily a great idea to try to hire a person because what you need is still evolving, right?
Mm-hmm. But you just said a good point. I don't know if you really did. If you present that scenario to your prospective hire, they know what they're walking into, and he or she can then make a logical decision that you're working together to figure out what we're really trying to figure out.
Yeah. And that could be appealing to the right person. That could be a godsend maybe to the entrepreneur. You never know.
Because I've talked to companies where they said we got a great product. I had some company, they did this in England, and then they brought the company over to the US, and they stole somebody from Motorola who we happened to know. And he called us and said, here's what we want. We said, it's only you in an office. How do we sell this? How are they going to sell anything if you've never sold in the US? And because we knew the person, we could hit the person with these questions. And he finally started saying, I want this type of person. He finally realized what the biggest common denominator was for him. And as we found those people, they expanded and we grew to a couple hundred people like that.
That's
a lot of
phenomenal.
people don't know that little piece, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And write it down. Put it on a piece of paper. Go, good, I know you're going to do this in 9 months. I know you're going to do this in 6 months. But what do I need to really get me there? He or she that own the company don't know that.
Right. It sounds almost like in some ways you serve as a trusted HR advisor to companies because frankly, that's a skill that's lacking. And I will say that goes even to some larger companies. The role of HR, and we could probably do a whole show on the role of HR and how that's changed over the years. But a lot of companies, the HR function is not strategic in the slightest. So there's a real gap, I think, in a lot of companies and certainly in small companies who don't have anybody doing HR other than maybe hiring a service or a neighbor that they tap into or something like that.
Yeah, I'll give an example because Sarah's here and she can tell me if it works with her or not. We don't give anything to Sarah unless we know what the hell we're doing.
That is true. I will not waste my time if I don't know exactly what our client wants.
I love it. Well, and that leads into my next question. What advice would you offer for companies who are maybe they think they can do it through Indeed or Monster, posting something on monster.com or LinkedIn? I'm not sure that's the wisest way, but for those who are maybe thinking of that or are thinking of hiring someone like FirstSearch, what advice would you offer them to find the right match for them?
I'm not saying I don't like Indeed, and I'm not saying I hate Indeed when I'm about to say what I have. Indeed matches words with words, and you get people that match the word. They're not talking to anybody. Monster, being a founding member of Monster, for me, it's a great place to get people for Sarah to talk to once we know what we want.
Yeah.
If they really knew what they wanted, they can go to Indeed, and Indeed's done a great job, but a lot of people are complaining they're not getting the right people to stay that they should because they're missing the human element.
Yeah.
People are still people. Guys are guys, girls are girls. I don't care whatever way you want to go on this, but that's what's missing. You got to go, here's what we need and why. And since they own the company, they've got to be asking that. Then they go to Indeed and say, if I'm going to use Indeed, here's exactly what I need, not filling out a questionnaire. Because everybody's filling out a questionnaire, but what makes your business more unique? Why would somebody quit their day job and come here? Why would somebody
Yeah.
out of college get excited to come to work here?
Right.
See where I'm going now?
Yep,
It's a
I
little
do.
piece of data that's not there in the equation.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Like we use Indeed, I don't like. I haven't used it. Monster, I haven't used either. It's just it's too AI.
Yeah.
There is no way to find a good, I mean, I am sure there are great candidates on those sites,
Yep.
but it's harder. LinkedIn is a lot easier to use in that aspect, and that is why we have it. It allows us to be a little bit more personal with our first contact out to clients, candidates, because I can see all that their jobs, schools, skills. A lot of
Yeah.
times they'll explain why or how their skill is and how it is used in each job. Where
Mhm.
Indeed, I don't think has that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, Sarah. Well, we're almost out of time, and I have a feeling we could talk about some of these points for quite some time. Value of a lot of businesses is really they say in the people, and it's really true. So these are pretty important topics for companies of all sizes to really wrestle with and think about. But a last question before I let you go. How can people learn more about FirstSearch or get in contact with either of you if they're interested in learning more?
First thing, they can go to www.firstsearch.com. They can see
Spelled
the
out
jobs
first.
we work on at the job board. They can also watch a video that we had custom done by one of the best in the industry that explains what FirstSearch really does for companies and candidates.
Okay.
That,
And is there a contact us form on the
Yes.
website?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Well, I want to say thanks to both of you for joining me this week. It's so much to think about, a lot of really important issues that as we've talked about, can really make or break a company. So, Sarah and Al, thanks so much for joining me this week. It was a delight having both of you.
Doris, and I know Sarah will
You.
agree. Thanks for everything, just having us on. We really appreciate it, and we love learning. So thanks for
Yeah.
everything you've shared.
Well, I learned a lot too, and I'm sure my listeners did as well. So
Good.
check out the website, folks. And again, Al and Sarah, thanks so much for being with me this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doris.
Thanks. And thanks to all my listeners. You are the reason I do this. I also want to make sure you take a look at my website, this www.thesavvyentrepreneur.org. You'll find there tools and blogs and all sorts of past interviews with amazing guests that I have been blessed to have on the show with me week after week. So check some of those out. And also, I'd love to hear from you. I welcome your comments, your questions, your suggestions. Just shoot the breeze. Email me at dnagel, Nagel, at thesavvyentrepreneur.org. I promise you'll always get a response back from me. So be sure to join me again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central. But until then, I'm Doris Nagel, wishing you happy entrepreneuring.